Hello, everyone. My name is Matt. Sometimes I go by the Grass Factor Martin, and tonight we have our next episode of Wet and Wild Wednesday. How's everyone doing? I'm coming at you as our lovely host here, but alongside me we have Ray and Ryan. Gentlemen, how in the hell are we doing? And we have a guest of honor tonight, guys. I got to drop that. I can't do it. I hate that. Sounds like shit.
Yeah, it was
shtick.
All right.
It is a shtick. Oh,
Yeah.
I guess I could do Radio Gal night. Coming up next at 9 on the 9s, we're going to be here listening to Bare Naked Ladies. Ha ha!
Well,
It's been 1 week.
You know, the good news is that at the end of this show, we'll do something we've never done before, and it will involve somebody who has a shtick that needs to just probably shut the fuck up. But anyway, I digress. Super excited tonight because we have
Can we do
somebody
can we
who
do Jazz?
is
Yeah.
a pro, somebody who's a pro's pro, I would say, in the years of reading. Like, this will be a fun conversation, not to respect anybody else that's been on here, but like, I feel like this is going to be a deeper conversation than a lot of the ones that we have, and that's cool too. It's fun to kind of have that range and everything. So, without further ado, Matt,
Bob!
let's introduce
Hey!
What's up,
Hi.
Thanks for coming on. For those of you who don't know, in the social media space, it goes by Carolina Cuttin. However, he's actually a legitimate turf guy, former turf grass superintendent, taking a hiatus for a little bit here. I think everyone needs one of those, especially when you worked at the caliber club that he did. Sometimes you need to step away, regroup, rebalance your life, and then tackle it from new angles and new challenges and all the fun that comes along with it. But his name is Robert, and he joined us tonight. Sir, how the hell are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm pumped to be here.
Man, thank you for coming on, especially, kind of last second. I was just like, hey, what are you doing? And come on and talk. And you're like, fuck yeah, let's do it. So anyway, thank you for doing that. I'm sure you've seen it where we have a couple people on before. I guess just real quick, how did you get into grass? Like, what did that look like?
So I got a degree in biology from a local university, and I was looking for jobs in my field. And a lot of them were in the lab, and a lot of them were not all that great as far as pay. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to chill out for a second and just take a job that I think I would enjoy until something comes along that I think it could be for me. And so I took a job at a golf club. The club is Quail Hollow Club in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I literally started from almost zero. I have no idea why they hired me, because I applied to other much less prestigious clubs in the areas and didn't even get a call. So I really do have no idea why they hired me, but they taught me everything, from the ground up. I started out raking bunkers in the morning and buffalo blowing rough in the afternoon. And it didn't take long on the job for me to found out that I was really in love with this. I started playing golf as soon as I could walk, and I was playing golf with my dad from a really early age. And so this seemed like the natural intersection of kind of my two of my biggest passions, which are golf and science. And so to combine that into turf grass management and get to be around the sport of golf, and also be around it at the highest level, that had a lot of draw to me. And so I stayed there and got some specialized education. I was fortunate enough to be able to do that online during COVID. Got a turf certificate from Penn State and was able to kind of move up the ranks there. I eventually became the spray guy. And then finally, when I left, I was the assistant superintendent there at Quail Hollow, and had an unbelievable time and met some awesome people. And it was just a blast.
That's cool as hell.
So yeah, that's pretty sweet. Biology, it is. And then biology, it's funny because how many times have you looked at an application and it's like, a lot of times you'll see, in lieu of a turf grass degree, a lot of times you'll see a biology or related field, right? And
Yes.
and so I guess it does make sense to me why, when they saw that, they're like, oh, okay. But how long did it take before you went from like, okay, I'm going to try this out to like, I am unhealthily obsessed with this. Like it's going to cause problems in my life.
So probably 6 months until I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm leaving. Like I'll work for $7 an hour. I can get a demotion and I still want to be here.
I hate when that happens. Damn it.
No,
Yes.
I don't know.
When they know they got you by the balls, and it's you're kind of wrecked at that point.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that there's it comes a point where you know, it's not that you're being forced to learn or you're, you know, faking it till you make it or anything like that. Like you're just consumed. And I think that's one thing that Robert I'm picking up that he's describing. I think each of us have told the story about going through similar situations in our professional career. And what's weird about that, I think, for the most part, is that not everybody gets to have that. There are tons and tons and tons of people out there that work a job that they hate and they just, you know, suffer and tolerate, right? And here we are on the other side of it, like, you know, all those corny things. Oh, you find your passion, you never work a day in your life, all that bullshit. Like, we're all here doing it, right, and have done it. So I guess from that standpoint, has that, you know, caused, as you've gone through and either started to train people, right, whether they're at the golf course. I mean, I'll be honest, like, you know, have had struggles, not like marital struggles, but struggles explaining it to my wife, right, of like, hey, this is different for me. This isn't just like something I do. Like this is, I need this in my life. So how has that been for you? I'm serious. It's true.
I know.
It's fucking.
I laugh
fucking
because it's true.
It's sick and it's twisted, and I don't have hobbies. I just have grass, and it's sad. Make fun of me if you want to. I don't care. It's who I am. But no, like how has that arc been for you of, okay, maybe interested in this. Holy shit, I'm in love with this. And then you're like, there's no turning back and I'm never leaving. And even though you're in a transitional phase right now, like I know you'll be back, but what's that been like with other people on the other side of the coin?
Oh my gosh, I can't wait till my wife. I at least got to fast forward to this part so she can hear you say that. You know, I have no hobbies. I have grass, because she will just have so much. She would be able to empathize.
Just give you, she'd shoot you. That. She'd look that. She'd give you that judgmental look and pause and be like, "Robert, we've talked about this."
Yes, yes.
You know,
we gotta get the people with the butterfly net and the straight jacket for you. I mean, seriously.
So, honey, we're going to vacation to a country that lobotomies are still legal. What do you think about that? So, all right, we're fucking around here. So, but seriously, what has that been like to relate to others that maybe don't get it? And I'm saying this because I think a lot of the people that watch the show, our core audience, face this every day. If they get it and they have employees, they have friends, they have business partners, they have vendors, everybody else, right, that's on, I'll call it the other side. And it's not to say that those people are any less, right? But how do you relate to that? Because you're one of us. That's why I'm asking.
Well, when people used to ask me what I did, I used to tell them I grow grass and it's not weed. That was just my standard answer. I'm probably not the one who invented that. Y'all probably use similar line anyway. And then everyone's like, you push a lawnmower around or like what?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh boy.
I'm like, okay.
I always lean into that.
I try to make a push for the professionals in the industry sound maybe even more out than it actually deserves to be. But you know, talk about pesticide application and licensing and fertility management, water management, and you use the buzzwords like water, fertility management, all of us just shovel dirt around. You know, he doesn't spend every hour on the business end of a shovel. But what I try to impart on them, if there's one thing, it would be that, okay, we're taking care of a living thing. And so kind of like, it's not the same as a kid, but there's some parallel there. Like you can never fully clock out. Like, yes, you can leave the course, but your mind is always on, okay, what's the weather doing? You know, what do we have to be prepared for? lightning storm. Okay, is there going to be trees down when we get there? Is the staff going to get there okay? It just snowed 2 inches. Who's going to come in and shovel the walkway so the members can access the clubhouse? Just stuff like that. Your mind is always going what to do to keep the grass healthy. What do we have to do to keep the club operating for the membership so that everything can go about just like normal?
Yeah, and I think
It's actually
that,
this is one of the most
Go ahead.
graceful explanations I've heard because I did not have that ability and I got offended real fast. Still do. I think I talked about it not too long ago when I said, a guy walked up to me and was like, "So you're like a landscaper?" And I mean, I can't even begin to describe how hot my blood. If water boils at 212, I was probably at like 212 C. I mean, I was smoking. I was so hot. There was sublimation going on. So anyway, it was nuts. But yeah, what were you gonna say to me?
Oh, that's just when I'll see people that are making fun of some of the people that we work with or something like that, and we'll say, "Oh yeah, you're just a landscaper." Yeah, I renounced my Mexican citizenship, and I'm really working to go past that entry level stage. But thanks for asking. You just gotta really lean in and lay it on thick to these people of like realizing.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
You see,
Because at first they're like, "Is this guy dumb?" And then they realize, "Oh wait, I'm a fucking moron." Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Idiot.
that is the most gracious because I think I'm pretty bad too because I've gotten to the point where here's how I explain it. I'm fixing what the landscapers here have fucked up. Okay? I'm fixing their fuck ups.
Well, and so
Okay?
I like the baby analogy. I like that one too because especially in my world, like I talk about projects and contractors being there and everything, and I always liken that to like, hey, you're at the hospital and you're in the nursery, and the nurse is there to help you take care of everything, and then suddenly, very quickly, you leave that stage, and then this baby, this new living thing, is handed to you, and you have to figure it all out, right? And how prepared are you to do that?
Yeah.
And I think that's just what you said, right? It takes a lot of love, care, support, all those things, but a lot of know-how and experience and everything like that. And one step further on that would be like, imagine raising a baby with no experience and without Google, right? In this day and age, that's essentially what it's like
Yeah.
taking care of grass, because I can Google, what do I do if there's brown spots on my putting green that's mowed at a tenth of an inch? And it's Google's AI is going to spit out like, you're fucked. Like that's what it's going to say. You have to have the training and the knowledge and everything to put together those pieces, and that's, I think, lawn care is the same. I think all the different disciplines within turf are the same thing, right? It's taking a very complex set of variables and knowing that there's no right answer, but there's paths that are better than others to get to where you want to go. And then there's also the foresight of, like you said, staff issues, weather issues, turf issues, equipment issues, all these things that kind of come together and coalesce to, all right, that's either going to get us the result we want or it's not. We're going to come back and try it. And here's the really screwed up thing that your wife needs to hear this one too, because it's true. And this is the part that very few people can understand, is that like the love affair with it's never ever finished is also a big problem
Yes.
for all of us. That it is never finished, it will never be finished. And so trying to describe and get through that piece too. So you go to a course that, for those of you that are scoring at home don't know, Quail Hollow annually hosts a PGA tournament in May. I can't remember, when was the last time they had the PGA? You were there for it, right? You would have been there.
Well, I actually came about a month after, so it was in
Okay.
August of 2017, and I actually started
right.
less than a month after that tournament was over.
Okay. So long story short, for those of you that aren't into golf, like, it's a happening place, right? And very meticulously maintained. So you come on there as a newbie, like, just talk about the arc of learning about turf in general. Like, let's take away the other tasks and like manicuring a golf course, everything like that. We can talk more about that soon, but just turf. You come in off the street, biology degree, so there's some probably botany and some appreciation for some of the science and everything like that. But how did you go about learning the turf side in the matter of 6 years to be like being like the number 2 or number 3 person on the entire property when it comes to that?
Well, I guess when you love it so much, you end up the workers that are doing the things that you think are cool, which is, okay, this guy's hand watering greens, this guy's cutting cups, this guy's spraying greens. And you end up just wanting to go talk to them. And for example, cutting cups, they would be like, hey, you want to learn to do this with me? I'll tell the boss, send you out with me and I'll teach you how to do it. Or I'd be like, what are y'all spraying today? And he'd list off 7 things and I'd know what one of them does. Okay, so I'll pick one off of the 6 I didn't know and ask him what that does and why they're spraying it. So really found out, but also another great thing that was done at the club is that the superintendent, who ended up becoming the director of agronomy there, Keith Wood, he would do seminars every so often, and we would watch videos and answer questions and be able to interact with him. And it was great, especially for the people like me who had no turf degree. That was a great avenue for us to learn some practical turf that would apply to what we were doing day in and day out on the golf course that we could see kind of in real time.
How long did it take you? How long did it take before you felt like, all right, I'm fairly confident I know what to expect the majority of the time that you went into work?
Yeah, I would say 2.5, 3 years. So basically halfway through my tenure, I was there for 6 years. By that point, I could basically tell you what was going in the tank at what time of year and why. I could look at the weather. I could look at the grass and say, okay, we need to mow fairways. We haven't cut them in 5 days because it's been wet. I think it's finally going to be dry enough today. We're probably going to send that out first thing. And then we're going to come back double afternoon because we're getting much grass or stuff like that.
Yep.
So in other words, it took you a while, didn't it? It took you a little while, but then apparently, kind of thinking about this, you're actually a pretty fast learner. I mean, I consider that very fast learning, Robert.
Oh, yeah.
You picked all of this up in about, 2.5, 3 years. And I had a similar experience where I was teaching somebody's son how to do some of the things that I do. And it took him a couple of years to get most of it. I mean, it did take a little time, but then the fact is that talk about learning fast. And of course, here's something that I need to emphasize to people is that this is where I get friendly with the guys doing the everyday work because you can actually learn quite a bit from them.
You think about it like you get through your first calendar year and, you see, you kind of see the cycle of the weeds, you go through your winter weed period. And, but that's kind of like at the start of the year, you're watching it, right? And so you watch it go through the life cycle, die in the summer. And then, next January, like, oh yeah, it's that happened in August or September. And now I'm seeing, okay, so you kind of build, that, what to expect at least from that point. And then you get into your second season and then a lot of the shit that you didn't see in your first season, now all of a sudden is showing up as new too, right? Maybe different timing on disease pressure, but a lot of replication on, hey, I had brown patch on May 15th last year. I have it on May 21st this year. Okay, cool. All right. Now that's, kind of filed away. So at the end of that second season, you've covered, we'll say like 9 out of 10 predictable things that you're going to find. And then as you move into year 3, there's less and less surprises. And I don't even think that even if you're on the same property every day, it's less and less surprises, but the number of new things that you're going to encounter after like year 3, it starts to drop. And usually when you do encounter it, normally it becomes more serious at that point too, right? Like, because, you're planning for your highest degrees of probabilities, but then all of a sudden you have a once in a 10-year event or once in a 5-year event. You have just an absolute ape shit number of armyworms come through, and they're coming through in October instead of September, and you're like, damn it, man, I missed it by a effing week or whatever, right? So, it's all those little variances, but I think that's it for anyone, especially that's like, starting out in the industry and it's your first year and you're like, man, I don't think I'll ever get a grip on this. I promise year number 2, it gets easier. Year number 3 is like, it'll click with you. And I remember the day it did, I was at True Green at the time. And when it clicked with me, I was, oh man, I mean, I was so excited to go talk to customers for like the first time, right? Because I knew I wasn't going to get out wizarded by whatever it was the customer was going to ask me, And so with that whole new confidence and chip I had on my shoulder, and I'm out preventing POA, and it was, man, that whole rest of the fall into winter. I mean, just this chip on my shoulder. The rounds were so easy to get through, and I felt good. I'll say that with the golf course here, I never did reach that point, right? Like, because once I got to the point where it was grown in, then it was done, so it closed. I didn't know what to do. So I never got that full maintenance. I just got it to where it was grown in, and then people started playing on it, and then it was gone. It was taken from me. And I was like, man, this sucks. My life is over. Everything I've poured into this now is done. And so I didn't get to experience it. I got this experience in lawn care, but I do remember getting through those full few cycles there, and it all started to make sense, right? But it is it was a lot of fun. Let me ask this: with biology background, what was your most memorable biological disaster that you experienced at scale?
Wow.
I don't know.
We're talking about at the golf course, the biggest disaster.
Yeah.
I was going to ask it in a much nicer way of like, do you have any examples of failing forward that helped you kind of?
We don't fail forward here. We crash and burn.
Well, but that I don't care if you fell. I don't care if you fell all the way down the well. But like, what have been some moments that you could point to and be like, hey, I either screwed that up. I could have done this better. I wish I would have known that sooner and looked into, this aspect of, this disease or whatever the case might be. Like, there's always things you go back and Monday morning quarterback yourself on. So what have been maybe some of those that you could point to that maybe helps people relate, makes it a little bit more tangible for people as they're listening to this?
God, that was the
biggest
smoothest question, DeMay. That was beautiful. Jesus.
I get paid to do that. Not here though.
God.
One of the biggest almost disasters. We never almost lost our greens or lost any turf that was really in play. I mean, we had a pretty solid program and a lot of smart people that always had eyes on the turf. But the almost disaster, which we can get to because some of my pictures have it in it, was right before the President's Cup. So the President's Cup was the first tournament that I ever hosted that was not in May. So we always hosted on ryegrass, totally overseeded from wall to wall, Poa trivialis on the greens and approaches. And we were always hosting events in May. And so I knew what it took as far as preparing the surfaces for the event and kind of what roadblocks we would encounter along the way. Then in 2022, we're supposed to host the President's Cup in September. And so not on any overseed, it's all on Bermuda. And we were so focused dialing in the Bermuda at that time of year, right of the 12th hole. It's actually the 9th hole. If you go watch it on the tournament, the President's Cup, it was the 9th hole. They changed the routing of the golf course. But right of the 12th hole, there's about an acre of tall fescue that's right of the Bermuda grass rough. And all of that grass crapped out in late July from gray leaf spot. It's a really shaded area of the golf course. It's a great spot for tall fescue, but in the summer, when it gets hot and the dew just sits there, I mean, the dew will sit there until noon. And then you have nights above 70, 20 nights in a row above 70 and 14 hours of consistent wetness, leaf wetness.
Oh, so I'm getting erect hearing
all that
kind
grass
of
crapped out. And I was literally sitting there with my boss. I was like, are we going to pine straw this? Going to ask the organizers to build tents on top of it? What are we going to do? Because we can't it an acre worth of sod. We're not going to spend that. But I thought that might have been the only play. What we ended up doing is we got a plan together for seeding it in August. And we built a spray program, and we found a window. I think it was about mid-August, maybe early mid-August, and we had a couple days that we're only going to get to 89 and 90. And we said, okay, might as well just send it. So we punched the dirt so the grass would have a spot to get to. If it rained, it wouldn't wash out. We seeded it, and then we literally sprayed it. I spray hawked it myself every 2 weeks. We always had at least 2 fungicides in the tank and fertilizer, because we got to push growth. We can't have these single bladed seedlings coming up and play golf on that. We got to develop it. Needs to till her out a little bit. And we eventually got it where it was just good enough that we could be happy with it. But that was you talk about tight butthole moments where it's like, wow, we just might have a bunch of dirt right of this hole.
For people that don't know, seeding fescue in mid-August in Charlotte, North Carolina is a fool's errand. That is
suicide. I can't say
crazy. That is crazy.
There's nothing that would make you more horrified to know that is your responsibility and it's going to be aired on national TV. That is the pinnacle of a bad day. It's a bad month, as a matter of fact. And to do that and to be a part of that, I'll say that looking back on it now, I'm sure that's one of those moments that actually made you as a human enduring that kind of pressure and stress and everything that goes along with it. It's something you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. But kudos, man, because there's not a lot of people that could do that, and I do understand that is without a doubt a team effort as well too. I think even having a team for emotional support in that kind of scenario is as valuable as it is the differing opinions, because it's like, well, I know what we need to do, but sometimes you just need someone to bop you in the ass and be like, all right, well, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it. I know it needs to be done anyway, so we'll do it.
Well, that was the first time. That was the first time that, my boss looked at me and he's like, I don't really think this is going to work. He's like, you can do whatever you want. It's only an acre. He's like, you can spray whatever you want, seed it if you want to. He's like, I don't think it's going to work. And I was like, I don't know if it's going to work either. I was like, we're going to spray every 2 weeks, and we're going to throw the kitchen sink at it, and we'll see what happens. But it can't be worse than what we got now.
Sure.
And it worked.
And after a short trip to the Golf Course Lawn Academy, I had everything I needed. Right?
If you just called Ron Henry, he would have told you.
Ron. Yeah. I mean, clearly, you know what? Well, I'm so glad that Robert was here to tell us that the key to this whole thing was that his boron levels were sufficient.
Yes. If I had checked the boron levels and spread headway G, I never would have had this issue.
Did you do your MySoil test before you went on your spray program? Like, did that your ion exchange resin test came back as low, medium, and high?
Let me ask this question here, and we're veering a little bit off the rails here, but I will ask this question: is okay, just like Matt gets really offended, deeply hurt by being called the lawn boy, how do you feel about somebody like Ron referring to their business as the Golf Course Lawn Store? Does it in any way violate your emotional insecurities or vulnerabilities at all?
I mean, it does tick me off just because.
He's being honest. This is an honesty question. I didn't care what he said. I just want to see he was honest.
Yeah, I don't think he spent more than 30 minutes asking what the heck goes on a golf course. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. That's enough.
That's enough. Fair enough.
There's something about getting your ass reamed out by some random person of the public about the quality of your work when it's something completely out of your control, whether it be disease or drought or whatever the case may be. But I mean, they denigrate you so horrifically that you don't just want to leave the industry, like you want to check out, period. You're like, I don't know where I'm going to go hide somewhere and I never want to be seen again. To have that happen is it's an experience, right? And I think everyone needs to go through it at least once in their career, whether you're growing grass or whatever it is, but something completely out of your control that you just get humiliated for. And it may not just be one day. I mean, it may be an entire season that happens, whether it be members showing up and being like, yeah, the greens really suck today. And like, thanks. I appreciate that, or someone taking a divot out of a green or what, one of those things that's just so dehumanizing. Because when I hear people like Ron talk, I know for certain that guy has never been through that a day in his life. Not once. He's never had that happen, and he'll never know what that's like. And so that's why he can so easily call it the Golf Course Academy, because it means nothing to him versus people who have a little bit of time and experience around the space. I'm not going to say. I'll give you an example, right? Now, I'm not saying that we're gatekeepers by any means, because I would gladly help anyone that wants to make their way into lawn care, just like I know you would help anyone that wants to be an assistant superintendent or superintendent. I know Ray would help anybody. I know Ryan would help. It's the whole reason we fucking do this day in and day out, right? Is to legitimately help people not make the same mistakes that we've made to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars for over however many years of our career. But it's when I was behind two Hell's Angels on Interstate 40 the other day, driving home from work. I've got a 90-mile ride home from work, and these guys were absolutely balling, and so I kind of tucked in behind them, and I was thinking about their vest set it on the back, and the big patch on it and stuff. And it reminded me of, I don't know, it was a video I saw on the internet of some kid was wearing like a Sons of Anarchy vest or whatever. And this guy, rolled up on him and was like, hey, did you get that vest? And the kid was like, oh, my girlfriend gave it to me. And he's like, you know what people sacrifice to wear that, right? And the kid's like, I. And then finally the guy realizes, like, this kid has no idea what he's doing or what he's wearing. He's like, I'm going to do you a favor, and I'm going to have you take that off and put it up, and you're never going to wear that in public again. Do you understand? And the kid was like, yep. He's taking it off and putting it in his back seat. And it's one of those things, right? There's a lot of time, effort, sacrifice, humiliating moments, humility that goes into it, and it's, I don't know, when you see people throw it around a little haphazardly, I can see where it gets in your craw a little bit. It does mine. It definitely does mine too. Thing.
Yeah. All right, so
I've got a pretty big inferiority complex, though. So
go ahead.
I'm done. I'm just mumbling.
Oh, I was gonna. I was gonna. All right, so back to grass here. We got the pictures of. If there's anything you want to look at, just throw it out there. But I was curious about specifically transition. Like you said, you're on a fully overseeded golf course. You got the tournament is what, first? That's the first week of May, second week of May.
It's either the first or the second. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not late, but it's getting late early, to get that out and get your, to get Bermuda going and like get the golf course fully back to where the members want it really quickly. Like, how did you handle that? Because, you got the demands of the membership that want to get their golf course back. Plus you got to go through transition. Plus you got to clean up from a massive event. And even if you do it every year, there's still all sorts of little shit that pops up, right, that you got to take care of. So how was that like 4 weeks after the tournament each year?
Oh gosh. So best of my recollection, we would typically the ryegrass about 3 weeks after the events. Around June 1st was when the monument would go out. And as far as getting the turf back, the short grass, we never really had much issue. They were a handful of shaded tees that really didn't like being overseeded, and it would take all summer for them to get back. But as far as most of the shortcut, it was not a whole lot of an issue. Just because at that time, the Bermuda's we got the canopy was about 50-50 Bermuda ryegrass in the fairways by the time we were hosting the tournament. So the Bermuda was ready to go. All we needed to do was get the ryegrass out of the way and give it a little nitrogen, and it was going to be fine. Now the rough, was a lot more difficult. Number one is because you've got foot traffic from all the people around. So on the weekends, you had 35,000 people trampling around the edge of the ropes. That rough needed some help to come back. Obviously, structures was not that bad. So once the tour took the structures down, we would take it and pass it over the grass that was 12 inches long underneath there, and try to get up any metal. So when we would go to scalp it down, we wouldn't pop tires and shoot screws out everywhere. But actually, that grass turned out a lot better than a lot of the areas that got trampled. The ryegrass ended up dying underneath the structure, and the Bermuda would actually come back free for that, and there was really no sod needed there. But Quail Hollow does have a lot of trees. That's part of the lay of the golf course, how it frames the holes. And so there was 3 to 4 acres of sod that needed to be laid just about every year, just because it you overseed it in shade and it just doesn't come back. The Bermuda's not that happy anyway, but if you overseed it, it's basically as good as an herbicide as far as killing it in the shade.
Nick said,
Wow.
what kind of Bermuda were you growing, and what kind of soil were you growing it on?
Oh, it changed so many times. So when I got there, the tees were TIF Grand and the approaches were TIF Grand. The
Nice.
greens were Champion G12, which was another form of Champion, a more stoloniferous form of Champion that Champion Farms put out. I think we were one of the first courses hit. I think it might have 15 or 16. And the greens were done in 16. I wasn't there for it. But it was Champion G12. And then the fairways were always a hodgepodge of 419 and 328. And when I say hodgepodge, I don't mean that there's all types of grasses in one fairway. What I mean is that, okay, number 1 is all 2 and 3 are all 328. 4 and 5 are all 419. Okay, and that's real. I'm being serious with those numbers, because the holes that were added in 2016, you can't get 328 sod East Coast anymore. I think you can still get it on the West Coast. There's no telling whether it would even match up with the 328 from decades ago that we had. But so it was all 419 on the newly constructed holes. So when we go out and spray fairways, we would literally be like, okay, this is a mix for the 328 fairways. This is a mix for the 419 fairways. So we're managing that differently. The 419 did not handle the overseed well. So any chance we got, if the 419 would just be dirt after we sprayed out the ryegrass, we took 328 sprigs that we would cut from our fairways, grow a fairway up, and we can take sprigs from that fairway and actually sprig the fairways. And we knew we had the exact same type of grass that we had on the other fairways. And that worked like a charm. The 328 that we had, whether it's the same as, what LW50 has or what some other people that may have 328, I'm not sure. One of the tour agronomists said he called it 329. He said it was different. By the time it sat there for a few years, it was different than what was planted. But anyway, back to grass. So we ended up renovating the tees to Tahoma 31, the approaches to Tahoma 31. And in 23, so last summer, the greens were done with TIF Eagle. So by the time I left, it was Tahoma 31, still the hodgepodge on the fairways, and then TIF Eagle on the greens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and I think that's the difference. That
I had a little bit of a budget to work with there.
Well, I was going to say, like, being able to tinker with, and also like the benefit of, like, we've got to present the golf course to our membership not long after this tournament. Like, that forces your hand to do certain things, and so to all the people that'll probably be like, well, man, it's nice to nice to have this budget. Well, no, we're just trying what we know works, right? So like the fairways didn't change, right? Like, you worked with what you had there,
right?
But in some of these areas, like, particularly greens, approaches, tees, things like that, there's a little bit more room to make it work, or either make it work or make it work for you. And I think that's probably what they're trying to do with TIF Eagle. A lot of places have gone back to how they just played on TIF Eagle this past weekend, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting
I
to
will
see that
say
whole.
that
Go.
the budget thing, I have a lot of sympathy for and empathy with people that do amazing things on lower budgets. But the budget
100%.
thing does cut both ways, as I'm sure everybody is aware.
Oh
The
yeah.
higher budget comes with expectations that match the budget. So
Yeah,
yes,
and
we're sodding 4 acres a year, but that's because, okay, all this grass needs to be ready to go as soon as possible, and that's the only way to do it.
yeah, and you're 100% right. I think that's why Ray does what he does and I do what I do, is that like we want, and same thing for you, Robert. Like we want that type of pressure, if you will, that people
Yeah.
that want great results and uncommon things are willing to go to lengths to make that happen. We have the skills, the talent, the resources, and the will to get that done for you. Not everybody does. And that's no slight to anybody else. Like everybody has a level that they want to reach to and aspire to, right? And anything you do. And this is where
Yeah.
we're at. So, but you're right. Like, as I tell, you mentioned LW50, we have a little inside baseball here, if at the end of the project, I'm going to feed my balls to you, and they might be coming off the deli slicer, chip chop, because I didn't do my job, or they could be on the fine china, like Driver in politics, getting ready to put his linen napkin on and eat them up. You don't, hey, Driver, just a little tip. You don't need to salt and pepper them. We've already flavored them to taste. I'm just letting you know. Okay? Don't disrespect the chef like that. Leave the condiments out. But anyway, so I'm always curious
he's a
about
Heinz
that.
57 guy. You fucking know he is.
Oh, he puts the not even A1. He puts the Heinz 57 steak sauce on a steak at the steakhouse.
Ketchup too.
So
fucking weirdo.
He's probably on a list at the Texas Roadhouse. He's on a list. They're like, yeah, that guy.
Oh dear.
It's weird. I'm on the no-fly list.
Come in here.
And then that one. That doesn't make any sense.
Matt can't rent a car. Driver can't eat a steak, and whatever. All right, so grass wise, that transition stuff. Talk a little bit about overseeding on a course like that. So again, you're getting back into membership demands. They want the golf course, but you have to do a prim, proper, tip-top overseed to get things dialed in so that you have a good grow and good catch for your upcoming, months in advance PGA tournament. What is that process like?
Well, you talk about how, things are never over, and you really got that feeling where I was, just because we had about a month, maybe a month and a half, where we thought, wow, this golf course is really just an unbelievable sheet of green. We're super proud of the way this looks after what we've been through this summer, sodding grass, spraying out ryegrass, growing grass. And then you got to start the scalping process. You got to open up the canopy, get it ready to take ryegrass seed. And it's like, dang, we just got it where we wanted to, and now we got to prep it to take another beating. But that's the way it goes. And a lot of the fun was growing 2 different grasses. Every 6 months you've got a different challenge. When you kind of got a baby, the other you can kind of beat up and just pound with nitrogen, and it'll fix a lot of your mistakes. But yeah, certainly a lot of verticutting and scalping to make sure that the ryegrass wasn't just going to sit on top and dry out. It's got to get somewhere soil so that root can tack down. And because as soon as we put the first cut on it, they want to have their carts out there. So cart traffic is going. As soon as they see the mowers mowing down one fairway, I'll drive their carts wherever they want. So that was another challenge. But it was one that we relished, because one of the great things about that property is how the members are able to enjoy it at such a high level. And we really tried not to get in their way as far as making rules. Obviously, you get 2 inches of rain, we're going to be carts on path all day. But as far as opening up 10 days after overseed and allowing cart traffic, I don't think there's a lot of places that can say they do that.
Hell no. Lord have mercy. What overseed rate did you go down with? This is always my favorite question.
So we were wall to wall on the ryegrass, at least. We were 400 pounds per acre. So just under 10 pounds per thousand.
Okay. So it's still enough to be sexy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's on
yeah. I mean,
television.
it was the first cut was quite a fun thing to do.
People asking about, oh, did you like 328 or 419 better? And then how aggressive did you get with PGRs?
So 328 was my favorite grass. It's my favorite non-greens grass of all time. Whatever that 328 that's at that golf course, because it could take an overseed and bounce out of it just unbelievably well. The 419, even in the fairways, even when there's no shade, the 419 just nope. Um, did not like it. And it was a lot of babying and a lot of nitrogen to get it back where it was acceptable. So the 328 definitely was my favorite. And then as far as PGRs, yeah, so after we scalped, our pre-overseed spray included Primo, Acelepryn, and a wetting agent. We can prevent the army worms. We can slow down the Bermuda so that it doesn't swallow up the seed as it's trying to germinate. And then the wetting agent, because we're running so much water, it might as well soak into the soil rather than run off.
Yeah. Sounds about
Yeah.
right. All right, let's ask this. In the future, what are you looking for in the future? If getting back into it, when you're thinking about it again, what excites you? Do you want a similar caliber golf course? Do you want to go for a higher caliber course, or do you want to try something a little more, I'd say cowboy and go with like a municipal course or something?
I think a medium to high end private course is probably where I belong as far as the time that I'm going to be willing to dedicate. Having a daughter, I'm not going to want to work the 80 hours a week consistently over and over again. So I'm going to be looking for some place that's got a little more work life balance. And around here, the medium, the higher end private clubs, not hosting a tournament, not overseeding. You got one turf, it goes dormant. You get a break in the winter. That's where I see myself going. I still love the challenge that the membership presents as far as, hey, we want the greens to run 13 for our member guests, and we want them to be as firm as this table. Can you do that? I was like, okay, well, if the weather cooperates, we can get the firmness, and I'll definitely get you the speed. How about that? So that type of, can you do it? This is what we want. I really enjoy that aspect of it.
Harvesting 419 sprigs, how'd you do it?
Okay, so we harvested 328 sprigs, and then we planted them on 419 fairways that were dead. So dead areas. The whole fairway was not dead, but they were areas that were dead, and it was the same areas over and over again. So rather than continue to sod fairways, let's sprig the 328. So we had a lot of 328 in the rough, and if you had a manager that was comfortable, he could go out and flag some areas and get you to take, because we also had common Bermuda grass in the rough. We did not want you taking common sprigs and putting them in the fairway. So if we could flag an area that we were certain was 328, it was really easy to tell. But we also did grow up a fairway one year to about an inch and a quarter, and we would take sprigs out of that. We used a PTO-driven verticutter on the back of a tractor and just shred it. You pull out 2-inch long pieces of turf and lay it down, keep it wet, and then you had grass.
It sounds like a pretty simple. No, sounds like a pretty simple process because Robert, for the longest time, that's essentially how turf grass here in Hawaii was established on lawns. Because up until a few years ago, nobody grew sod in significant quantities. Okay, nobody grew it.
Okay.
So if you wanted zoysia grass like emerald zoysia or 419 or seashore paspalum, the way you bought that turf is as sprigs, and you had to grow the sprigs in. And that's why I'm very familiar with growing in sprigs. I'm super familiar with it because that's what I did my first 15 years in the business, was grow in sprigs. And that is why, for example, when talking about growing in sprigs, that's something that I'm rather familiar with, and I approach it a slightly different way from everybody else.
He smokes weed with the.
What's your way?
My way is water short intervals often and fertilize once I see root development begin. And my other one, where I break with everybody else, is control the goddamn fucking weeds, please. Control the weeds. Okay,
so we were lucky as far as that. We spread Ronstar wall to wall. They're not going to be able to do that anymore from the new label
and
update. But
the other thing is that
the Ronstar
but on a residential lawn site, Ronstar was never ever legal, right? But me being me, Robert, I had my ways of managing a sprig growing, and my way of managing the sprig growing horrified Matt. Absolutely horrified him.
I mean, it coined the phrase "burn and return." I mean, that was the whole thing. When you're spraying, simazine, MSMA, and something other crazy as hell, one of Ray's concoctions.
Well, because my main treatment when I was growing in sprigs back then in the 1990s to early 2000s, my favorite was simazine and Banvel.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah.
Big brass ones
nothing
right
like a
there.
little dicamba simazine combo to wake you up in the morning.
Well, but you know what? By me doing that, I didn't have to manage the shit shows that everybody else doing sprigs had to deal with.
Yeah.
I didn't have to deal with that nonsense because, okay, simazine down, that means no goosegrass, crabgrass, a lot of your broadleaf weeds, and the broadleaf weeds that weren't covered by the simazine, of course. Yeah, that 4 ounce per acre of Banville would take care of whatever the simazine didn't take care of, broadleaf weed wise. There. So, and then should I have some kind of a weed breakthrough through that, pre-emergent program, I was not afraid. I was not afraid at all. I mean, no fear. Zero fears.
Robert, have you ever considered taking a stab at lawn care to see whether or not you'd like it?
I'm doing it on what most people would consider pathetic level as far as number of clients. I'm doing it on evenings and weekends, mostly ones that I can pick up really, within miles of where I live. So there's not a lot of driving.
That's not pathetic.
That keeps me...
Not at all. Yeah.
That's not pathetic at all.
Yeah.
That is not pathetic at all because you see, as we often talked about, I ain't impressed with how many fucking lawns somebody has if they do shit work on all of those lawns. I don't give a fuck, okay? I don't care about how many. That's nothing to brag about. It's about quality, okay?
You're worthless.
I'm not
driver.
impressed.
With that,
I am more impressed with somebody that does good work on what he has, and he is not scurrying around wondering how the hell he's going to do a half-ass job on his 1,001 clients, okay? I'm not impressed with that guy. I'm unimpressed.
I'll just say this: if Robert gets this going and continues to scale it, I think one of the calling cards could be on his invoices when he issues those, and it says customer name, their address, other contact info, customer number. Everybody's invoice just says "I don't give a fuck" under customer number. Did you see this? The work customer number. I don't give a fuck. Gosh, Robert. Yeah, because you're right. It doesn't matter. You're right, Ray. I think people, and this is a great
this
example.
Is like my trigger point is that people ask, "Oh, how do I get my 1,000 customers or my 10,000 customers?" And they don't even have their agronomic program in order. They're asking about, how do I get 10,000? And they have a crappy, junky program that doesn't really work. and their program also probably costs them a lot of money because they're spreading and spraying products that don't work, and then they're asking us, how do I get my 1,000th or my 10,000th customers? Like, no, sir, you got bigger issues than how to acquire customers. You should worry about how to adequately and properly service the customers that you do have, so then that way, your work sells itself. Your work sells itself because I'm right now, you know what, I'm in the position right now where I am turning down work. Really, I'm turning down work, and the reason why I'm turning down work is because I'm trying to retire.
And move to the States.
That's right.
Yes. United States.
Charlotte.
He's trying to move.
As a matter of fact,
he's trying to move into grit country. Is where he's going. He's going to grit.
That's right. Yes.
Us grit boys, Barry. Yes, sir. I'm gonna get a little personal now. Were you married when you went to work at the golf course, or did you get married while you were working at the golf course?
Or I got married while I was working.
Were y'all together when you went to work there?
Yes, we were together, and I was on the job for about 6 months. And right about the time I fell in love with grass, I decided to tie the knot with her. So draw your own conclusion.
Yeah. No, I get it. That was the reason why I asked. I don't know. There was something about I'll say this. I've always been an old soul, right? Like one of my big things that I always wanted in life was to always have my own family, right? It was a big priority and goal of mine. But when I really fell for grass, I was like, holy shit, I've got to get married. It was like a weird thing that was like, okay, I've got this figured out. Now I've got to get married. Kudos to you. So you've been married how long now? 6 years?
Yeah, 6 years.
Congratulations. I know,
thank you.
If you survive the first 6 years, you can survive 60 years. And anyone who says anything outside of that are full of shit, because I won't even make it sound like this, the further you go into it, you're going to realize not everything is all rainbows and sunshine, but you've at least made it through the honeymoon period, right? And so, everyone's idiosyncrasies, and you could figure out solutions on when to tackle a problem. And sometimes what it just means is be like, I hear you, and I know you're not looking for a solution, so I'm not going to offer one, but I will listen. And so you get a lot of that out of the way, right? It makes things a little easier. Okay. You have a daughter. How has that impacted you and how you view your career, your priorities? I know you talk about wanting to spend more time at home, but even I'm just curious from like a physical standpoint, how did all of that go and affect you?
So we were kind of doing the math, looking at daycare. And once you look at kind of, what comes out on taxes, and once you pay for daycare, I was kind of looking at what we were going to take home, and kind of how much I was going to be paying someone else, to raise my daughter. And we both looked at each other. Neither of us were crazy about, sending her to daycare at 8 weeks old. So we kind of just looked at each other and was like, okay, maybe one of us needs to stay home and do this. And we were fortunate. I know there's a lot of people that just financially that cannot work. That's not feasible. But for us, it was an option. And we said, well, we at least need to consider it. And so I did more than I did. So it's fine to stay home. That is pretty easy math equation.
Mm-hmm. How is it? Are you able to sleep? I mean, are you, has it thrown a massive wrench into your lifestyle and things you thought were priorities or not priorities? What's that transition been like?
Well, I will say thank goodness I'm not working the hours I was working and trying to have an 8-month-old, because, oh my goodness, I didn't sleep that much before, but you combine the two and there would have been no time. I just would have petered out or started hating the industry, or something bad would have happened. It was a crash course for us. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad we were able to do what we were able to do. But I thought that I would play more golf once I left. That's not the case. I'm still playing about the same amount.
True.
I'm hopeful that she'll get into it and she'll be begging me to go play. But no, right now I am able to get sleep, and sometimes she goes down for a nap in the afternoon, and it's time for Dad to go down for a nap and take that 45 minutes to an hour opportunity just to.
This all sounds. This sounds all very healthy, actually, to me. Super healthy, because, remember what I said on Sunday about taking care of your family. And that is it. Because you see, anybody that says, oh, so you're now Mr. Mom, you know what my words to them are?
Fuck you.
Yep. Exactly. Okay? I mean, don't ever start that with me, because I gotta tell you, I was raised by a single parent. All right? And my brother was raised by a single parent. And it actually, turned out as well as it could given the circumstances. But the thing is that the two of you are together, and you kind of explained it to me, and it all works out. Is okay, Mom's at work during the day, and she comes home in the afternoon, and you can go do what you would like to do, and it all kind of works out. That is healthy. That is entirely very healthy. And you know what? Hats off to you for, I guess, choosing wisely. Making a good choice, because this question about daycare and children comes up all the time. And when you actually do the math, a lot of times it works out better for somebody to be a parent rather than to be dual income and not actually raising their children.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think just having the balls to do it speaks a lot to your character too. I mean, I could just say, even my own ego, like doing that, it would be a very, very challenging thing. And I'm admitting right now, it is 100% because of my ego. And so just the fact that you have the ball, really genuinely the balls to do that, I'm incredibly admirable. And I think that speaks as much about you as a person as any other accomplishment that you could have, because that is purely showing dedication to your relationship and to your family, for your daughter. And I think that deserves a monumental amount of credit.
Well, thank you very much. It did help a lot that both of our parents were on board. Both of our parents, they hadn't said anything, but they were kind of thinking in the back of their mind, they would later tell us, he's always at the golf course. What is this going to look like when you have a child? And so I feel like they were almost relieved to hear that we had come to that conclusion. And certainly when her parents and my parents are supportive of something big like that you decide to do, it definitely helps, because at that point, whatever the world thinks, they don't have to live with the consequences, and I do, and the people that I care about and are close to me, we're all on board, and so let's go.
Yeah.
That is right. Wonderful. That is so wonderful. And the fact that this all originated from, I guess, your parents and her parents is even better, because sometimes, you know what parents can be? Parents can be such boomers, okay? They can be such boomers. And
says the Gen Xer.
Driver.
And the thing is that they don't have the perspective, because most of these boomers, they'd be looking at you like, what? You're going to stay home, but you're the father. I was like, so? I mean, so what? I mean, that's wonderful. I mean, your daughter gets to know her father, whereas I know a lot of children, they almost never see their fathers. Okay, they never see their fathers. I mean, that is the truth. Their fathers don't.
I mean,
guys, if I don't want to interrupt. If y'all give me 30 seconds, I unwittingly locked my wife out of the house, and she didn't have keys. Let me go open the door for her.
BRB, BRB. Got it.
He's gonna get his ass. He's gonna get his ass ripped. Well, I think one thing we can take away from that for sure is that driver is not aging. Driver is merely transitioning to a boomer. It's a safe. That's a very PC way of saying it there these days.
Yeah, and he doesn't even know. That's what's hilarious is that he is becoming what he despises more than anything in the world. It's absolutely fascinating, and to watch it all go full circle. Sometimes you can't help but you want to bait him into it. But, oh, really? How do you feel about that? Explain more. Fucking boomer. There he goes.
I can't wait to hang
all right.
out.
Because...
I can't wait to hang out. He's back. All right,
yeah,
Brent,
right.
I want to let me ask you this, Robert. What would you say? And it doesn't have to be any specific number, but maybe the top 2-3 things, whatever, of things that you think that lawn care folks, the folks that you interact with here every day, and that you see their struggles, and everything kind of from afar. What are 2 or 3 things that you think they could learn from golf course folks?
I'm gonna say that Ray's got it nailed, and keep it simple and don't go chasing these snake oil. And a lot of the golf courses, you can actually find it. They will be spraying all these expensive things because they have the budget. But just keep it simple. Make sure that your soil is not atrocious, that you've got nutrient levels that are capable of sustaining grass, that your pH is acceptable, and then keep it simple. More is not better. The amount is the best, and try to aim for that.
Okay, I mean
There you
that
have
is
choice.
where, Robert, I got to tell you, do you know where I learned my obsession with 111?
Where's that?
It was at the golf courses that had high-performing grass without a lot of hiccups and offsets and issues. On the other hand,
Yeah.
the golf courses that keep on fucking around with all of this bullshit in a bottle, their greens and their fairways are right on the edge of catastrophe all the time. Whereas the old timers that didn't buy into the trash and just put out Yara 21-7-14 or Yara 16-15-15, they don't have too many issues. They don't have the problems. They don't have the level of, catastrophes and drama. They bypass it. And do you know why they're bypassing it? They're supplying the nutrients needed, no more, no less, keeping it very simple.
Unless they opt to mix phosphite into their 20 mix or something bizarre like that, and then create a disaster.
But you see, the old timers, they even consider phosphates snake oil as well. They don't want to hear about phosphates. Okay, they don't want to hear about it. I mean, and
I'm a little too new school for that.
Yeah, me too. I love my phosphates.
I got no problem with
because for me
either.
No, for me, I hate them. Okay, because they're misrepresented, and half the time, I need to tell people, "Hey, dude, phosphates are not going to help you. You need an actual damn fungicide. Phosphates are not going to help you because phosphates only work for bacterial diseases, maybe Pythium and Phytophthora as a preventative, but other than that, they're not a universal cure-all, and whoever told you that phosphates are a universal cure-all just took your damn money. They scammed you."
They scammed you. All right, let's flip this around then, Robert. Like, what?
Yes.
You're an aspiring, lawn guy to a certain extent, right? Who knows where that goes and everything. But
Yeah.
what do you think that golf course superintendents could learn from lawn care folks?
I mean, I don't want to say the same thing because that doesn't make any sense. Um, but as far as, I
Maybe
mean,
they need
golf
more
courses
snake
are
oils. Guys, I want to introduce you at GCSAA to a man I like to call John Perry. No, I'm kidding.
Can you imagine
No.
if we got the RS in every golf course Kim room across America?
I couldn't imagine.
Oh man. Oh man.
I don't know. I don't know if there's enough affiliate links and credit card processing fees that could take the volume of orders that would come through if that were to come to pass. But
Here's what I'll
shudder
say
to think
is
about it.
that if I had to say one thing to the golf courses, and especially to the higher budget golf courses, is that just because you're spending more money doesn't mean you're getting more for your dollar. And just look at other ways that you can do, you can achieve the same goal, and yet you're not paying this really nice high dollar product that you can brag to your friends that you just bought 20 acres of. But spray what's going to get the job done, and then at that point, don't spend any extra than you have to.
I'll say two things that stuck out to me, DeMay, is one, exactly that. When it comes to cost, is the amount of time that I would have to spend working on costs, right? Because of course I can go buy, whatever name brand, strobe label that I want, and pay $400 an acre, or I can really, really do some finagling here and get it down to like $80 an acre or $75 an acre, and now closer to like $40 an acre or $50 an acre, right? So there was a big part of that. But the other thing too is, especially the type of lawn care I did, it was the pace. There was something about the pace that I saw break a lot of people that were formerly in golf. And it's not just the pace that you have to be on and off the properties, and I call that more efficiency than anything, right? So limiting your extra movements to just what needs to be done. And a lot of times even that's just like managing your hose when you pull it through the backyard, and making sure you keep it on the right side of the trees, so that way when you make your next pass, it's not getting wrapped around it, or you're not pulling things over when you pull your hose to the far corner of the backyard or whatever. Keeping fertilizer prills off the back walkway, little things like that you kind of pick up with time over it. And it adds to the inefficiency when you make that mistake time after time, and when it's 90 degrees outside and it's 4:00 in the afternoon, it becomes pretty it feels like garbage. You don't have an extra 30 steps in you to get through the day. Yeah, you realize that you've got the hose wrapped 3 ways around 4 different trees, and it's going to take you, another 75 steps to get it all undone. And you're just like, man, I am miserable right now. But also how fast that you have to come up with some sort of solution to a customer that is beat red faced, right? And you have to say something calm and cognizant in a relatively short amount of time to get them off your ass, so you can do what needs to be done, right? And I've seen more than one golf person crumple in that scenario where, and I don't mean crumple as in they just got beat up, but crumple in the sense that they couldn't keep their cool anymore, and immediately jump to, do you know what I have done over the course of my career? And I'm not going to let you talk to me that way, and normally it was a lot more choice words than that. And depending on the superintendent, a lot of them are, definitely had a few beers the night before and are not feeling awesome by the time 3:00 rolls around and it's 100 degrees outside. Right. And so, the bad words start dropping left and right. But I think that would be the 2 things that I would recommend is, like, if from a golf perspective and moving into lawn cares, one is keep doing your homework on establishing the relationship that's going to get you prices that are way more manageable than what you're used to seeing. And then number two is literally every property you're on, approach it from the standpoint of what is the most efficient way that I can get on and off this property. Even when it comes to loading your truck up with equipment when you're done, what is the least number of movements that you can take to make sure everything is? So it means don't put your backpack and hook it back in, and then go get in the truck, write up your invoice, and then go hang it on the door. And then, oh, I forgot to put a flag in the backyard. I got to go put a flag in the backyard. Oh, I forgot one in the front yard. Do one in the front yard. You have to have all that mapped out, the exact route you're going to take when you pull up to the property. And if it's your first time on the property, you have to be building that internal map while you're on it. And so that way there's no wasted time, no wasted effort, no wasted motions. It's on, it's off, and you're on to the next one, kind of sort of deal, right? And when you pull up to the property, before you even have the opportunity to talk to a customer, you're making all those mental notes about what you see, and if you get asked about it, what your pre-planned responses are going to be. And so a lot of times, they meet you at the front door, and you start getting it out of the way. Be like, hey, I'm here. I'm applying plan this to that. I just want to let you know that I saw that by the mailbox. I saw this on the walkway when I was walking up, and I'll take a look at things in the backyard while I'm back there, but I'll get it all taken care of while I'm here. You have a good one. Good to see you. And all right, cool. Most of the time they'll go back inside unless it's a sweet old lady and she'll bring you a glass of sweet tea or whatever. And you'll be like, bitch, I'm off sugar. Why'd you do that? Or whatever else. But however you have to handle it. All right, it is. All right, it's 10:40. Demay, let's do something. We got Robert on here. We're having fun. Let's cut up a little bit. Let's do our first Wet and Wild Wednesday live with a guest. Joe Knows Turf segment. How about that? We're gonna break him in.
Let's initiate this guy.
Based upon his written examination in the politics channel of TLF, I think he has passed that, and we're now on to the oral examination. Right? This is the chance to, ascend to the next step and move forward.
Hawk to it. Hawk to
it. Yeah, hawk to it.
Spit on that thing. It's a joke for
me. Let me pull this up here real quick. Yeah. So, okay. A little, I guess, brouhaha erupted today, and it was based on some comments that were made, and it was brought to our attention. Hey, take a look at this. What do you see? What do you know? And I thought we'd take a look at it here. So, basically, what's going on here is the lawn care nut, Alan, if you will, is not happy about some comments that were made on a video that he posted about fertilizing in the heat. Fertilizing in the heat. Now, gentlemen, before we dive into this, when I say that word, because that's, I think, the title of the video or something to do it, what are just some reactions, cautions, drivers of not driver himself, but drivers of saying, hey, maybe we should do that? What are some things that come to mind when I say fertilizing in the heat? Let's kind of set the table here. Go around the room, starting with Robert.
Well, first of all, it kind of makes me cringe, and I'm going to ask, okay, does the grass need to grow more right now? Is that your problem? Okay, so say you say yes to that. Do you have a means of watering this in? Is this a hot fertilizer that you're applying? Is it urea based? Are you going to kind of go no irrigation with urea and just gas your neighbor with ammonia all day? Or are you actually going to water it in and feed your turf? So that's where I'm going first thing.
Okay. Ray?
Okay. My next question is are we doing this to a cool season turf, a warm season turf, what kind of turf it is? And I'm also going to follow up with, regardless of the type of turf, do you need it to grow more? And do you have a means to irrigate this and keep this irrigated? I mean, I'm with Robert on this one. And last question is why? Just why period, because to me, fertilizer time is essentially in like April and May, and then again in September and October. I mean, I'd probably do well in the continental United States and not fuck things up too badly.
Yeah.
You know? Matt, how about you?
To be honest, I have no idea what you even asked to me. I'll be real with you. I tried to pick up on it from them, but
when I say the title of the video in question here that everybody's in reference about is "Fertilize in the Heat?" ? So if somebody was going to ask you, hey, should I or shouldn't I? What should the considerations be? What are just some things that pop into your head without knowing the context of this argument and all that goes with it?
Yeah, I mean, literally, if someone's asking me, can you fertilize in the summer and not burn it? The answer is yeah. And so what we're going to talk about there is we're going to talk about salt index of fertilizers, release characteristics of different fertilizers, and we're going to talk about rates. How rates can be very, very impactful on whether or not you burn grass or not. We're going to talk about different turf types and different turf type tolerances to different salt indexes. So, I mean, that's when I think that when I see a title, I mean, that's what's going through my head. I like to go at it from a chemistry standpoint, just because I'm kind of a chemistry nerd. So that's what I would be looking at, is the chemistry related to the fertilizers.
Okay, so
compositions.
We're gonna this video is actually like 3 years old, and the comment section blew up today. JPink, why don't you throw up the tweet and the reaction first? Let's just read this and on its face try to understand a little bit about what's going on and what the hubbub's about, and then we'll watch the video. All right. So those of you that are audio only, I'll read this to you. This is directly from Alan Hain, Lawn Care Nut. He says, the bitterness some are filled with is palpable. The claim I made was about fertilizing the lawn on a hot day, and I said, quote unquote, I've read dozens of FERT labels and never have found one with a heat restriction. I think this elitist, parentheses, or wannabe elitist, missed that labels are written for all, not just the educated few. All right. So that's Alan's comment. And he's responding to a YouTube comment to a video that we'll watch here and kind of get the audio and a little bit more of the background. And in this comment, it says from a gentleman named, I'm assuming gentleman. I got real genderish there. I'm sorry, guys. Just touchy tonight. What a preposterous bunch of nonsense. You seriously think I'm going to believe... Pause. You seriously think I'm going to believe advertisers, packaging, and a fertilizer salesman dressed up as YouTuber over science? Quote unquote, I've read dozens of fertilizer labels. How many scientific papers about turfgrass have you read? How many have you read about fertilizing in the summer? Question mark. So this gentleman is Coonhound Pharaoh. I don't know him. I've never interacted with this guy. I don't know who he is, but he just made this comment here, and it apparently set Alan into a tizzy that he thought about it for an hour, screen grabbed it, and went in there and ultimately responded. So real quick here, it says, you sound like an elitist for sure. I'm not college educated, just a common man like most. That said, what claim? Where'd it go?
All right, JPink is messing up.
JPink's okay. Yeah, that said, what claim did I make in the video that can be refuted by science and aren't labels designed to be interpreted by the common man? Ooh, all right, that's a hell of an argument there, boys. So,
it's circular. It's entirely circular because, hey, common sense tells you that there's a time of the year where I think you just kind of back off on the fertilizer. I mean, please tell me, Ryan, when does it make sense to push a cool season grass with fertilizer on a landscape turf? When does it make sense to push grass in the summer with a fertilizer? And that turf is landscape turf. We're not talking about a grow-in on a golf course. We're talking about cool season turf on a landscape lawn. When does it make sense to do that? in the summer.
Well, and I think there's times and places, as Robert alluded to, and there's a sort of a decision flow chart, if you will, that one would go down
Mhm.
to, ask and
Mhm.
answer questions to see if that's the wisest choice, and go from there. And also, I like Robert bringing in the green dock methodology, right? 80-20 rule, whatever. The simplest path is usually the best path, especially when it's hot as fuck outside in the summertime. Just a general rule of thumb.
Yes.
All right. So that was the comment. And then I think there was some more Twitter back and forth or something like that. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's watch the video here. JPink, if you'll start it, the first 55 or so seconds are just fluff. And all the films we have, we're not a high budget show here. We don't have fluffers. Yeah, we don't have fluffers at Wet and Wild Wednesday, unfortunately, or fortunately. I'm not sure. Maybe can we get a fluffer? What's it cost? We'll put an ad on Indeed. We'll see what comes up. All right, let's watch lawn care not
back in. So I think the first thing I should do is just address this logically, so those of you that want the answer and want to get out, you can. This grass right here was fertilized on May 30th. And I live here in Southwest Florida, just south of Tampa Bay. And on that day, it was 91 degrees outside. In fact, we're well over 80 degrees even in February. When we're getting here into June, we're obviously in the 90s every single day. And you can see this lawn here is not burned, even though it was fertilized on a day that got up to 91 degrees. And just for the record, on that day, I fertilized it.
Yeah, you have St. Augustine. Like,
yeah, pause.
Hang on.
This is
there's a lot of caveats
this is
there.
There's context. However, if I'm not mistaken, most municipalities in Florida, if I'm not mistaken, they literally prohibit fertilizer use after April, if I remember rightly.
Minor details. Now, Robert talked before about a pucker factor, and I would just like to ask you, Robert. Let's say that somebody's watching this somewhere in the greater Charlotte area about this time of year, June or so, and they see this and they say, hey, fertilizing when it's hot, my grass doesn't look that great. I probably maybe should fertilize. Let's see what the internet says. And they get to thinking that this might be a good idea. What would the pucker factor be there? What would the diameter of the object be to easily insert at that point based on the pucker factor? Does anybody have a dial caliper that we can borrow?
The 28 gauge hypodermic needle.
Might need
31
so
if you're
Ray.
Ray.
You think if somebody
31
was to
if I'm
interpret,
Ray? Oh God, yeah. Yes.
and we don't need to qualify this if it's a common man or an educated man. Let's leave that out of the equation for a moment.
Well, if I go outside right now and I look at the lawns that don't look too hot, as you can probably guess, they are mostly tall fescue lawns. The Bermuda lawns, if they don't look hot, it's because they need to be cut, or they got seed heads going everywhere. But by and large, the turf that's really struggling that doesn't have the curb appeal is the tall fescue, because it's been hot and dry. And if you are going to go and spread a granular with a 320 SGN, probably is this stuff, and you're going to let it sit there, or you're going to water it inadequately, it's just a recipe for disaster. And let's assume you water it in completely anyway. That extra nitrogen is probably not the answer. I'm not going to say definitely, but I'm about 95% sure more nitrogen is not going to fix your problem.
I like those odds.
I think that's fair.
I
like
those odds, and furthermore, this is where a lot of times when people come to me with their lawn problems in the summer, I always go back to water. I tell them, don't even think you're going to apply anything else. Your problem does not have a solution in a bottle or a bag. Let's talk about your water first.
Well, in the context of golf too, it's a good way of putting that, Ray. We got Robert here, but long time ago, when I got into golf, I couldn't have been more than 20 years old, and I think one of the superintendents I was interning for said the number one reason that superintendents lose their job is water, either too much or not enough. There's very few that can write, and those are the people that are employed for a long, long time. Be one of those people, Ryan, and that'll perk your ears up. So, anyway,
similarly, Ryan, yes. You know, my former employer, bless his heart, he was kind of a fuck up too. But one of the most important messages the guy gave me was that with water, you can make a lawn and a landscape do anything. That was the one good thing that I took away from that's the one good thing that I took away from the guy. And ever since then, that is why I'm such a jerk about irrigation systems. That is why.
All I heard was water, and prior to that, all I heard was that Driver used to be Ray's boss because, bless his heart, but he's a fucker. All right, let's watch Alan. Is he fertilizing again? I don't know.
It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we were definitely.
What is this? What day is this?
This is B-roll. He's saying this is May 29th of 3 years ago. So this is May 29th, 2021.
Oh, okay.
This video's from 3 years ago. Again, which is weird because this comment, you know, this is probably not a very commented on video at this point. We can go back and look at the newest and everything like that. But like this comment really set him off. We'll talk a little bit more about the psychology of this in a minute. But all right, he's douching lawn with fertilizer. Let's watch him do it.
51 degrees. And just for the record, on that day, I fertilized at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we were definitely at our high at that point. And you'll notice wherever you live whatever part of the country you're in, you're going to see the professional lawn companies out all summer doing applications on lawns. So that right there should tell you, just as a logical perspective, that, yeah, I guess fertilizing the lawn in the summer isn't going to burn it. Still not convinced? No problem.
He's really doubling down on this.
Yeah. Okay. So the lawn jockeys that are out there, right? I'll ask this to Matt in a volume lawn care setting. To what degree? And let's try and split this up: cool season, warm season, because you've been in both ends of markets. What would you expect to, as far as a percentage, right? How many people in the summertime in this heat are strictly granular, and how many folks are liquid or non-granular, not doing a granular fertilizer?
Yeah. All right. Let me caveat this. Okay. So if people are doing a granular, you're either going to see something that's incredibly low analysis, like a biosolid blend with just a pinch of urea or something in it, or you're going to see something that's like 100% coated or 80% coated. And so it might be like a 1704 with 80% polycoat or something. We had my old buddy over at Dickens Turf had the Ninja blend, which was it was like a 2408 with 75% duration 90 in it, and the reason why you would see that type of blend is that your potential for burn was low, right? And the other thing too is that again, you can look at the bag, and there is no rate listed on the bag, basically, because it would be like from a co-op or some small regional blender or something, and there's no rate listed on it. And so you ask, what are you going to put it on? They'd be like, just enough to see it come out was typically the recommendation you got, and so that was what you did. So you're going out with something that is difficult to burn grass with if you're applying a granular. No one is spreading urea, no one's spreading 21O ammonium sulfate straight out of the bag, no one's reaching for the ammonium nitrate. It's something simple like that. And then I would say, like, you're probably more well off established guys are applying liquid, and there's usually no fertility in the tank at all. If there is, maybe in a 100-gallon tank, they're putting a 25-pound bag of Peters in it or something like that, and then or a handful, like one of those where you take a sandwich baggy amount of urea and you throw it in your tank, and then you add your fungicides in it, right? And so if people were spraying, they would typically be spraying fungicides and spot spraying weeds. They may just be spot spraying weeds, or they're spreading something either low analysis or like really, really slow, for that summer slow feed, kind of thing we do.
So, okay. Now, well, let's take that and apply it on the golf course, right? So Robert, what would be a typical approach on warm season, right? And obviously St. Aug, there's no St. Aug fairways, everything like that. But let's just
that was
talk
about
warm
cool
season.
Yeah, give me warm season.
No, that's good. That's fair. That's fair. But I want to take it to warm season, and I want to take it to a golf course level. What would the approach be in the summer heat with a fertility program? Let's say on warm season.
Okay, well, as far as needing to throw that much fertilizer, there were situations that I encountered where that was the play. We talked earlier about transition after spraying out the ryegrass, and there were plenty of times where I would go out in June, July, and I would be throwing down a pound of in one application, and a lot of it was quick release. And I think that was the right play. But here, let me tell you what I did. I didn't let that sit for 30 seconds before I was on the radio calling up the heads to get that watered in. And you know what? When the heads went down, I had to put eyes on every spot that I put fertilizer. And if I saw a single prill, those heads got another 3 minutes. Everything that touched that area, I was not leaving any fertilizer there. No chance. I was not going to speckle that grass that was already struggling because my boss would have seen it.
Okay, I'm going to add something to that because I remember having a very interesting experience on this commercial property that I put Yara 16-15-15 on about 20 years ago. And these people swore up and down that their irrigation system was good. Fine. I cycled, their rotors 3 times, at 5-minute intervals to get those prills to dissolve and go down. But week after, I get a call back. Hey, there's all of these spots on the grass, and you know what I told my boss and the and that property owner? This is the last fucking time I put granules on this property because your irrigation system is shit here.
And
then
again,
on,
we call them up in the CRM system under customer number. I don't give a fuck. That's how we knew that was the right place.
Real quick,
and
on Bermuda lawn care, like 3404, 33% slow release. It was like a summer blend of mine that I put on Bermuda grass all the time. Typically, I'm probably putting it out at like 3 pounds 1,000. So roughly a pound of in would be going out.
Okay. So
yeah,
let's continue the video here.
Bermuda.
The next thing I recommend you do, and I recommend you do this with everything you do in your lawn, is to read the label on the product that you're thinking about applying, because it will tell you if you shouldn't be applying in the heat. I got a couple 2-3 different fertilizers here. One of ours, obviously, you guys know we launched Freedom. Great summer fertilizer. And then I got 2 store-bought products.
God, I hate
None of these at all say anything about
Chicago
applying in heat.
accent.
None of them say don't apply when it's hot. This could burn your lawn. Don't apply when heat exceeds 80. None of that stuff. It's not on the label at all.
Can I just state?
Yeah.
All right. So there's a thing called AFCO. It's the American Association of Fertilizer Product, something. I don't even know what it stands for, but we'll call it the label police just to make it sound fun. And so what they do is they determine on states that you register your product to sell in, because of course they want to tax it over a certain amount. Is that they go in and they make sure that you have everything on the label that needs to be on the label, right? And so whether they be plant food ingredients, non-plant food ingredients, you just got to state all your claims, and then those claims are minimums that you are guaranteeing, right? So, for instance, if I have a bag of fertilizer here that says 1776 on it, theoretically, it could be a 20-20-20, and I can label it as a 1776 because I'm only guaranteeing that it has at a minimum 17 units of N, 7 units of P, 6 units of K. But again, you can get yourself into trouble if you start squirreling with it too much, right? Because if you're selling 20 units of K, but you're only charging for 6 units of K, right? Like it can start to get hairy fast. So you don't always do that. But anyway, I digress. Temperature restrictions on AFCO. I'm just going to do a quick Google search and see if there. And I'm doing this live. I'm doing this live to see if there is.
You're Googling it right
anything,
now. Yes.
Yeah. About temperature restrictions on a fertilizer label. Nope. No, it's not required.
It's not required. Yeah, it's not required. However, what is the established practice, within the industry regarding fertilization? Because, my goodness, it's obvious to me that Alan Hayne has not fried his share of lawns. It's obvious that he hasn't. And here's the thing is that with St. Augustine on irrigation, for me, what my pucker factor is with the St. Augustine on an irrigation system is actually very low. And you know why it's very low? Because the growth habit of the St. Augustine is such that prills on St. Augustine tend to filter down past the leaves. Okay?
Yes.
Ask me again on Bermuda grass or zoysia grass cut at less than a half an inch. Then I'll have a different answer. But if you're talking to me about Uncle Al's 6-inch tall St. Augustine, prills tend to filter past the leaves and head towards the soil in most cases. Your bird
JPink,
potential is extremely low.
Can you throw up that picture I sent? Okay, so anyone who's been around has probably seen a potash quart bag before. Used to have a location in Augusta, but they're around in the southeast and other areas. Guys, this is, by all intents and purposes, I think anyone that's managed even a little bit of turf knows that urea fertilizer can get spicy real quick, right? Where on this bag does it have the temperature restriction?
Nowhere.
Okay, where is the rate to apply on this bag?
Nowhere.
Okay.
Nowhere.
So how is the common man supposed to know what to do with this if labels are written for the common man?
Okay. Here's my take on something like this. This is a commodity, right? Matt?
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with commodity products, it is presumed that you are a qualified person that knows what to do.
So
Right.
if we look at a fertilizer, Ray, that has 17 units of N, 7 units of P, and 6 units of K, that has 3 commodities in it. Therefore, if you combine commodities, does that all of a sudden mean that the label is written for a common man, or is it still assumed that you have enough knowledge to be able to draw some conclusions there on your own?
I would imagine that regardless of, because of the limitations and the labeling requirements of that Fertilizer Manufacturers Association, it is presumed that regardless of who the fertilizer is marketed to, that the person applying it knows what the fuck they are doing in the first place. And therefore, you have a bag, even if that bag is supposedly marketed to the common people, it would also behoove that person to think about what they're actually doing, and maybe, just maybe, it's not such a great idea to spread a mix of muriate of potash, ammonium phosphate, and urea over their turf-type tall fescue lawn when it's 90 degrees outside.
So here's another one. These are elements of a fertilizer label according to APFCO for the state of Kentucky. So we're going to take a look at this here, and so you got to have the product name, the analysis, the individual components, and their listed percentage in it. It has to have a derived from statement. Directions for use can be like, applied to turf grass areas, applied for grasses and ornamentals. It can be applied for pastures. don't apply it into water, things like that you want to specify. However, you can see there that where do you see temperature restrictions on here?
Nope.
Do you see rates on it?
Nowhere to be found, Matt.
Hmm.
Nowhere to be found. And
does this look like it's written for the common man?
Not at all.
How common are we talking?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what that means to begin with, but
the driver should be the arbiter of all these labels.
Yeah,
because you see, here's my take on something that is written like this: is that this is a product intended probably for even somebody that is supervised by a qualified professional such as an agronomist. That's my take when I see a label like this. I mean, and unfortunately, I don't think Alan Hain is a qualified agronomist. So what the fuck is he doing telling people what to do with fertilizer in the first place, all right? He's not qualified.
So let's watch a little bit more of the video here, and let's let him talk just a little bit.
And the reason it's not on the label is because it's not a concern. You have to understand that these big companies that sell things through Home Depot and whatever, they're really selling to folks that have a lot less knowledge than you guys do. And if their product was going to burn the lawn if you applied it in the summer, they either just wouldn't sell that product or they would tell you. They would certainly tell you that, because that's the last thing a big company like that needs, is a bunch of burned lawns in the summer. So the key is to read the label and see what it tells you about restrictions or concerns or cautions. And if it's not there, it shouldn't.
Okay. So let's just break this down for a second and let's compare two products. And I don't need labels because I generally know what's in them. If you want to go find the label, knock yourself out, right? If you look at Alan's product that he just showed, the Freedom, the 1776, right? And then you compare that to, let's just call it like a Scott's product, like a turf builder, right?
Sure.
The reason that Scott's has formulated those particular products, right? And I'm not saying that one's better than the other. They all have their uses, right?
Sure. Yeah.
This is no different than picking your ammo or whatever the hell you want to do, right? Like, the point here is that Scott's has formulated that with a whole lot of methylene urea, right? And products that are generally going to be safe, right? Whereas if we look at, and I'm not picking on Alan, I'm just saying he threw the fertilizer up in there and wanted to compare it and have it. That was the only bag that was turned over to see its front, right? So if we look at that, and I'm evaluating the safety metrics between applying those in the heat, right? Regardless of what the label says, because on both of those, there's not going to be any temperature restrictions. But if you're asking somebody who knows what they're doing, right? Nothing to do with elitist or commoner or anything like that. I'm going to say that there's a much, much higher safety margin with the Scott's product, right? So, but flip this argument around on him. I'll ask Rob. Robert's probably spread more fucking methylene urea than any of us combined. I love it. I spread the shit out of it too. But would you feel comfortable in the statement of saying that you can burn grass regardless of the season with methylene urea? Robert, yes or no?
Sure, you can.
That's right. You can.
A lot less likely.
Exactly. But it's possible. So it's not. It is incumbent. So the point here is that it is incumbent on the applicator to make those decisions, make those choices, and assume that your post-application follow-up, to whatever extent that needs to be with irrigation, anything like that, right, is followed in sound, right? Regardless of the product that we choose, it needs to be followed up on. It needs to be sound. Okay. Let's let him here go. And by the way, Robert, we were talking about prices earlier, naming prices. I think that was off the air earlier, but what's the number? And you can write it down on a piece of paper and slip it across to him. So what's the number I need to get you to wear a lawn enforcement officer hat like that?
I think I'll take Ray's route here and say I have no price. Here's your price.
Uh-oh.
Basically,
oh yeah.
All right. So at least we know that Ray and Robert both have dignity and some sense of self-worth. Matt and I are lacking in both of those departments. I'm sure if he gave me enough money, I'd put this hat on. It seems like a nice hat. Nice guy. All right. Let's play the video. Let's see what else he has to say.
Be a concern. And just for the record, I have read dozens of fertilizer labels in my day, and I cannot remember one instance where a...
Okay, real quick, AFCO. Matt, this is not scientific, and Shaddix would shit on us for doing this, but I'm going to ask anyway. How many labeled fertilizers do you think AFCO puts a label to and certifies in the turf grass market in a given year? Ballpark.
Thousands.
Okay. And because my math is not good, how does dozens relate to thousands as a ratio?
100 to 1.
Very few to a fucking shit ton. Okay. Or as Matt would say, a metric fuck ton. Okay. So we've established that the dozens of labels that have been read are a mere, just a sliver, right? A small pubic hair of the entirety of fertilizer labels that exist in the United States today. Just want to make sure that we're clear, causing that to be clear here for our listeners. All right, let's continue.
A fertilizer, an NPK and micronutrient type fertilizer, had any type of restriction on it that had to do with heat or applying in the summer. And if you need more convincing, I can actually illustrate this to you in an extremely practical way. Right now, it's 89 degrees out here. Can you see that?
Ray, look away.
Can you see that? 89 degrees.
Let me get past.
That means that this grass is currently handling 89 degree temperatures, and you see it's not burning, right? It's handling that fine. If I come over here in the garage and I grab a little fertilizer, this is a little leftover of our starter fertilizer that I have. Now in the garage, these prills are probably 80 degrees or so. They actually feel cool because they've been in that bag. Maybe they're 70 degrees. Doesn't really matter. They're definitely inside the garage and they're cooler. Now if I take these out here and I bring them out here, what's the hottest that they're gonna get? That's right, 89 degrees, because that's how hot it is out here. So if these prills are 89 degrees, how would 89 degree prills burn a lawn that's already handling 89 degree temperatures? It's like sometimes people think the fertilizer is...
Demay, when it's 90 degrees outside and you're standing on artificial turf, is the artificial turf 90 degrees? Isn't that how that works?
I attribute it. I would say it's about as close as one can come to standing on the planet Mercury. But I'll never get there. But
cool,
it's nice
160 F.
Yeah. Well, Dad, why are my shoes melting? Wow. I need new shoes.
That's weird.
Well, just give it a second here. Let them go. Just let them go. Let that
magic hot bullets or something, and it's gonna heat up to some 250 degree lava when you put it out there. It's not the case. It's a physical thing that can only get as hot as its surroundings, just like everything else in the world. So there isn't going to be any extra heat generated when you apply outside. Now, some of you might be thinking, yeah, but Alan, what if some of those prills actually sit on the grass blades? Well, there's actually three things to think about there. Number one is they're only going to be 89 degrees, but number two, without water, they're not going to release their nutrient. I'll set these right here.
What?
And you will see.
What?
I could come back 2 or 3 hours from now, and they'll still be sitting there just like that. They will not have changed.
It's
not like something happens that
is anyone right now who has a bag of urea, please go take a handful and put it outside tomorrow, and then come back and look at it the next morning and tell me where it went. You're going to be like, holy shit. We talked about Yara earlier. Amidas, I love Amidas. One of the fun things about taking bulk truckloads of Amidas is that when you put it in your storage bin and you come home and then you come back the next day, is that 22 tons you had to deliver is now about 16 tons, and you have 6 tons of liquid urea ammonium sulfate that's just running in streams all around, filling up your containment device. How does that happen? These are very hygroscopic materials. They are salts. When I say salts, I'm not necessarily, we're talking about chemistry. We're talking about salts. It's not sodium. These are salts, right? And so they are hygroscopic, and they will take on atmospheric water and atmospheric moisture and dissolve literally right in front of your face. So if you leave it there, a lot of those will begin to dissolve and break down. Sometimes over a period of hours, you'll just see a puddle there all of a sudden. Sometimes over a period of, 2 days, 3 days, it'll be reduced to a puddle. Maybe the blue prills there that are coated, you might get 7 days out of it before they disappear. Well, you'll still see the blue shells, but it's inside. Its innards have disappeared.
What's inside
mysteriously.
counts, Matt.
It is what's inside the counts. Just real quick, JPink, can you? I was gonna have you throw that one up, but actually, I'm gonna send you a different one if you don't mind. Let me send you this link to a PDF, and I'll send it to you. And just pull this up. So when we're talking about salt indexes, right? And I think the easiest way to talk about this out loud is its potential to burn. Okay, and when I say burn potential has absolute fuck all to do with temperature. Nothing. In terms of like, the prills are going to get so hot that they actually burn things, right? It's not like you're taking crumb rubber and spreading it out and it actually becomes so physically hot that it actually burns the grass. What we're talking about is salt burn. If anyone has ever cut your hand and dipped your hand into a bag of urea, why does it burn? Keep scrolling down, JPink. Keep scrolling down. You're going to see a whole list of all kinds of shit, right? Okay. So, as a simple thing for you to understand that you see here is that if when you see a salt index here, anything over say like 20 and it gets on your skin and you have an open wound, boy oh boy, are you gonna fucking know it. Like there's gonna be no doubt about it. You're gonna be like, why is this actually burning? This burns bad. It's going to feel like alcohol. Or it's the same reason if you take table salt and you put it on a wound, it does not feel good. It's not like when you go to the doctor and they clean it out. Of course, they could actually mechanically scrub out and clean a wound with something like, sodium chloride, also known as table salt. Or they could use potassium chloride, which is also a food ingredient in things like no salt for people that are sodium sensitive.
However, Matt,
it would absolutely fucking hurt. You would be so miserable. It would make alcohol look like child's play.
Here's the thing, is that also one more factor is that when these salts take on water from the atmosphere. Okay, for the viewers and listeners, that salt taking on water literally will take water from the atmosphere, the humidity, and create what I call a saturated solution of that salt.
Literal saturated solution. And that is the maximum amount of salt that will dissolve into the units of water that are available.
And the reason why I bring this up is this, guys, is why I'm so fond of spraying low-rate liquid fertilizers on turf grass, especially in critical situations. Yeah, and you've heard me talk about this many times where I'm calculating, okay, I have 1/10 of a pound of nitrogen that I want to apply to this turf area. My minimum spray volume for that application is 1 gallon. However, if I'm looking at the temperature and the humidity, Matt, and it is making my butthole pucker up to the diameter of my 31 gauge needle, that's when my spray volume then goes up to 2 to 5 gallons because, I am that guy where when I was much younger, I've made some rather concentrated liquid fertilizer solutions and proceeded to apply them to a lawn and a landscape. And if I didn't fry that landscape and lawn right before my eyes, I would get a call back the following week about, that thing that you sprayed the other week turned all of my grass and my plants brown.
I've done it. I'll do it. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, right? But,
okay. Burn is not a symptom of temperature. It is a salt issue as to why that happens. Is that me being an elitist, Domain? Can you...
I think all you need to do is right now. I think all you need to do is plagiarize something and mail in for your degree from Harvard. Should be all set.
Ooh! Pow!
I don't know. All right, let's continue to watch. Sorry to all the Crimson folks out there. But
this train wreck.
They break down. They got to have water for that. And thirdly, I'll show you that the prills don't actually hang up top anyway.
Water.
Feel that beat? I do.
Oh, and one more comment. You know, if I saw St. Augustine grass with that color, Matt, you know what my advice to the customer would be?
I'm
this
sure
lawn
it's
does not
something. Yeah.
No, this lawn does not need any more additional fertilizer. This lawn does not need it because this is the natural genetic color potential of this type of St. Augustine. It doesn't need any more, and applying more nitrogen to St. Augustine in this condition, all you do is you just make more growth, more thatch, more problems. I mean, talk about creating a problem. Your lawn is trouble-free.
Buy some,
and you
buy
see
some other products that'll take care of your thatch problem. Boom, we got you.
Oh, right. Okay, right. I forgot about that, Ryan. What an idiot I am. I mean, I must really be sleeping right now because I forgot about dethatch. I forgot about that. Shoot.
Ray, I know you've seen the movie Animal House before. You know, when they borrow Flounder's car and they get back in and Boone, Otters say to him, "Hey, you fucked up. You trusted us." Here we are. All right, let's continue on with the video here real quick.
I have St. Augustine grass, which is the fattest grass blades you can get. If there was any grass that was going to catch prills and hold them, it'd be mine. And you will see it is very difficult to find one when you apply. Pretty much most of the prills, they fall down into the turf, fall down through the canopy immediately upon impact. All right, now one thing that I do want to make note of is that if your grass is wet, let's say wet with dew in the morning, and you apply then some forms of immediate release nitrogen can stick to the grass blades. And that can then cause a release of, and we're talking about nitrogen here, a release of a high amount of nitrogen because the prill sticks to the grass blade and there's water on it. And the water then releases the nutrient. And that can cause some burning of the tips or the blades of the grass. However, that's pretty rare, number one. And number two, that's easily avoidable. Do not apply to the lawn when it's wet. However, you do want to water your treatment in after. And again, that's because the prills don't specifically stick here when you apply, but they will if it's wet. So it is okay to water right afterwards, and you want to do that to get everything, the nutrient release down into the soil where the microbes can do their thing. However, you don't want to apply to a wet lawn. So that's just a little caveat there. You can do some burning if you apply to a wet lawn with certain fertilizers. Now, the other thing is, though, most fertilizers nowadays are 25% or more what we call slow release. Now, you should not be as scared of the word immediate release or quick release fertilizer. You shouldn't be scared of that at all. You want some immediate release where you want to wait like 2 weeks for your results? No, you want your results within 3 or 4 or 5 days, right? That's why most fertilizers will have some immediate release and then 25% or more slow release, but they're not doing that to prevent burning of the lawn. They're doing that so your results,
they are.
kind of last, so you get results within a few days. But then the slow release, which
the other screenshot that I sent you, because this is a perfect segue actually into here. Okay, so slow release fertilizers have a much lower salt index compared to soluble nitrogen sources. For courses irrigating with saline water, meaning high salt content, high amounts of soluble nitrogen can exacerbate salt problems. Slow release sources such as urea form, also known as nitroform, and methylene urea have a salt index of 10 and 24.6 respectively, while urea is 75.4 and ammonium sulfate 69. With the lower salt index, slow release products do not require irrigation to avoid burn, which I believe just refutes exactly what he said, is that it's not as time sensitive to get water on it, so therefore it will aid in your ability to predict whether or not your application is going to burn.
This, though, isn't a scientific paper. It doesn't prove anything.
It's actually from the USGA. This is direct from the USGA.
Elitist.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
This is from, yeah.
Okay. So let's continue. JPink, I want you to jump to 738. And we're just going to kind of fast forward through some of the stuff he's talking about with the Sanog. He's going to jump here to cool season grasses and talk to us a little bit about them.
Why? You see, just because a fertilizer isn't going to burn the lawn, it doesn't mean it's going to be best for summer. So for example, with cool season lawns, I recommend you guys back your nitrogen down, and you do go with slow release nitrogen in the summer. Again, not because of burn, but because cool season lawns, their growth periods are in spring and fall, and in summer they kind of chill. So you do want to feed them, but you don't want to blast it with a ton of nitrogen when the lawn is kind of suffering from heat. And just so you guys know, cool season lawns, they can do okay over 85 degrees, but it starts getting up over 90, and they really don't want to eat. They are not looking to do anything but just chill and make it through. So you don't want to blast them with a bunch of nitrogen. So you use slow release, lower amounts of nitrogen on cool season lawns in the summer, and you go for like higher potassium, things that are going to help it through that stress. Whereas warm season turf, you can actually put down quite a bit of nitrogen in the summertime, and you should.
What? Okay.
Okay.
Here we go again.
Really weird.
Here we go again, because I want to understand the logic of applying something that contains potassium chloride to grass that is already heat and water stressed. Because I remember, you know, that that document that you put up earlier about the salt indexes, Matt? Potassium chloride is listed as a product that has a rather high salt index.
Yeah.
I remember.
So there's that whole issue of we're all worried about burn and everything like that. And first of all, we're not even talking about the correct mechanism of problems surfacing related to burn, things of that nature. The other thing, though, too, here, guys, is that we're worried about, hey, we're going to back down the rate and everything like that, but we're going to do slow release, and that's what's going to help the grass take up the correct amount of nitrogen. That's not entirely accurate, especially when we're using a polycoated nitrogen like what's in these products here. We're basically at the mercy of soil moisture, right? So who's to say that we don't put those rates out and that stuff's all gone in the matter of 2 weeks, right? If we get the right environmental conditions. So I think some of this is a little bit more nuanced, not too much. You don't have to be full on elitist, right? You can have written and turned in your essay on how you're going to change the world to Columbia, but you maybe not accepted quite yet when you're talking about this type of turf grass knowledge. So the other part there too about the potassium is just on bullshit. Let's see what he has to say though about the warm season grass.
Good. But the way I teach is not to apply giant amounts anyway. I recommend like 0.75 or 3/4 pounds of nitrogen every 4 to 5 weeks to keep that nice warm season grass growing. So you do want to adjust the fertilizer you use in summer based on your grass's needs and growth habit, not about anything to do with burning. Next, some of you will ask, Alan, I know, but I've seen burn lawns before. And yes, you can burn a lawn with granular fertilizer, but that's because something was done off-label, and it's not always on purpose. For example, if you spill fertilizer in the lawn, you spill a pile of it, it doesn't matter if it's 70 degrees out or 90 degrees out, that spot's going to burn. That isn't because of heat, though. That is because an overabundance of nutrient, typically nitrogen, was put onto the grass and it just blew it right out. It's just too much for it to handle. This is exactly why dog pee spots burn. Dog pee is urea, and it gets let out into the lawn, and it's concentrated in one spot.
You know why? Is because when dog pee comes out, it attracts ultraviolet rays from the sun and ends up being over 300 degrees upon contact. Clearly, it's a proposition of thermodynamics. That's what I was going
to say.
I think what we should do.
Model
Yes, his little the diorama of like science fair project thing. Matt, you were asked earlier to put urea out. I'm asking everybody to take a piss into a red Solo cup and set it outside tomorrow, and let's see how it goes.
One more thing. Let me show you a picture I just sent to JPink. This is literally urea that has been outside on concrete for about an hour. And guys, I did not put any water on this, but why is the concrete wet?
Ah, that's exactly what I was talking about. How, these hygroscopic fertilizer materials, they will pull water out of the atmosphere and keep on pulling the water until they've created their saturated solution. And Matt, this is exactly what I envision happening when somebody goes out and throws down fertilizer in the summer in hot and humid conditions. This is exactly what I envision. Because, by the way,
Ray, let me clue you in. Not only that, I took this picture on January 5th of this year. It was a decently warm day, nothing crazy. I think it was like 60 degrees outside.
Stop,
and
Matt, stop.
60 degrees,
However,
70% relative humidity.
Exactly. So even if it is a little bit cooler, what if you have that higher humidity? And I also know something about turfgrass canopies. I know something about them.
Do they hold humidity?
Absolutely, Matt. They hold a lot of humidity.
God.
Because I got to remember more wise words from my former employer regarding something like a granular fertilizer or granular pre-emergent.
Is this
and you know what his words were? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. More.
Just
okay. The other wise words were, okay, you spread this product out. You now own it until it has been completely watered in. I mean, those were his.
I thought plants ate fertilizer, though. You have to feed it because it's eating and it's hungry, and it's going to eat the solids, right? Is that not what? We're not eating fertilizer anymore,
dude. You didn't know?
Not,
I mean,
because
Robert said he went to Penn State. I think he went to CIA to learn how to cook, Michelin-star meals for turf grass.
So elitist.
Oh yeah, I mean,
there's one point that we haven't tackled, and that is on people that are doing this with cool season lawns that are applying this much nitrogen in the heat. We haven't really talked about the amount of chlorothalonil it's going to take to spray themselves out of this. And that could actually be a lot of chlorothalonil.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, you've been married for. We talked about being married. You've been married for 6 or more years. You paint it white, you're probably going to sleep on the fucking couch. Let's be honest. All right.
So, JPink, I'm going to send you one more comment here, one more screenshot, because I actually went to go ask that specific question: how much chlorothalonil? And it turns out I'm blocked.
Oh, well, here I'll show you what was left of the conversation here. All right. So this is the video. Okay. So he says, to his credit, he kept the discussion going. Let's see if he would be willing to talk to me on Zoom. I'm super curious to know how people build this much animosity towards someone they've never met, yet still elect to engage with the content anyway. Got to be a psyche. I'm assuming he means psych term for it. Yeah. I think what it's called is calling bullshit, right? Like if let's see here. Yeah, this is just the comments back and forth on YouTube, which I can't find. I'm not sure if they've deleted them or what. But regardless, I think the point here, gentlemen, is that can you fertilize in summer? Absolutely can. But to get upset about somebody saying, hey, like, you ought to put some context behind that because, not everybody has a St. Aug lawn, in coastal Florida that needs to put nitrogen down in the summer, right? And he went over some cool season steps. He talked about backing some rates down and things like that, but there was still not enough context within that. Oh, here we go. Look at JPink is always.
It's very much the opposite of elitist to advocate for truth, which saves people money instead of trying to sell more bags of fertilizer to the naive. Yikes! All right, we'll go down. What claim did I make in this video that contradicts science? I mean, we've kind of gone over a lot in our little oral review here. JPink, can you read more on that real quick? Okay. This guy wrote an entire master's thesis on it and defended it in front of a board. So, Yeah, no reason.
This isn't Timmy.
Graph. This is Timmy. This is Timmy talking to Driver about teacher unions. And so anyway, and this is brutal too. Actually, if you read it, I mean, it is fairly brutal.
This is no.
And then if you keep going down, you'll see I address the differences in warm and cool season turf near the end. The videos about app rates or nutrient lows or slow release in versus nitrates. It's about the fact that people think apps in summer burn when they don't. That's just it. They do. They can, right? And this wasn't talking about how to avoid burn. This was the justification that it's not going to burn via temperature. Or if you take a handful of it and you put it there, it's so much nitrogen that it'll just pop out. I can't remember the exact word he used, So anyway, there is a lot of weird, strange mental gymnastics. And life must be easy without integrity.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we saw the same thing. That's hard.
Yeah.
Hey, so
there's a lot of mental gymnastics here to pretend like this is a quality piece of content. How about that?
Oh wait, it says is one of those guys that had a podcast where they just bashed lawn care social media influencers. No, that's us. Yeah, we don't know. We got jobs and families. We don't have time to type out comments like that. Only Matt for about 32 minutes before he goes to bed.
Yeah, I was going to say 30 minutes before bed, 90 minutes on the way to work, 90 minutes on the way home from work. That's normally when I'm engaging in these kind of wars.
Well,
depends on if I drive that here now.
Is again context. 3 years old video. I'm sure that Alan's knowledge base has increased. The dozens of labels are now probably nearing 100 that he's read out of the 1,000. So we're getting better on that ratio. I applaud those efforts. And the point here being is that the reach and the responsibility is important here. The nice thing about our little thing that we have here is that our subscriber count is pretty much flat across the board. And we file that right under where Robert puts his customer number on his invoice. We don't give a fuck because we're just here to dish out the knowledge and chat with people like Robert. And there's so much more. We didn't even get to the damn pictures. Shit. So we need to find out when Robert's coming back on, because I want to go through each and every one of those pictures and just be like, explain, and then just go from there. That'd probably be the easiest way to do it, because I'm sure that there's a story and a quiz and a question and some life-altering thought at the end of it that will make me think that Robert is like the Tony Robbins of turf when it's all said and done.
Robert, I don't know if we've gone too deep in this before, but I am a huge Tony Robbins fan, and I'll send you the clip tomorrow that it got me. I will admit, I mean, when I say I have FOMO, I have the worst FOMO of most people alive. I think that's why I had a problem with drugs and alcohol at one point in my life, right? But it's like Tony Robbins is one of those people that can talk, and it gets into my head, and I feel it. Like I don't just hear it, and I don't just understand. I don't comprehend it. I feel it deep in my fucking bones, and it gets me going. So anyway, this conversation for another day. Okay, we're gonna get the fuck out of here. We went way long, so we're gonna skip an after show. Robert, please come back. There's so much more I want to talk to you about, and I felt like
this is like an icebreaker. This is the icebreaker.
Yeah, this is the icebreaker for sure.
Tell you what, guys, I've just loved this, and I would be a comeback. We could do this all night.
Yes.
So yeah, if people enjoyed this, let's do it over and over again. This is great.
100%.
I just want Driver to walk out like it's the middle of a Jerry Springer segment, slide into the screen, boom. That'd be perfect. All right, sorry, go.
Back signals out, as Robert said earlier. Come at me, bro. He's ready, Driver. Don't be a bitch hiding behind your union over there. So you heard me. I said it out loud.
Talk to the steward.
That's right. Go to your union boss and get it organized. You don't have to hide behind him. Sorry, busy day. All right, love you. We're out of here.
No scabs. Love you. Bye.
See ya.